Hey class, it's Melissa here. I am doing the brief exercise chapter 9, number 11. As you can see, I already did it and I made a mistake, but I wanted to leave it up there so that you wouldn't make the same mistake as I did. So the question says, suppose Nike Inc. reported the following plant assets and intangible assets for the year ended May 31st, 2017 in millions. So before I read this, I'll go ahead. Other plant assets at 987 million, land at 250 million, patents and trademarks at 500 million, machinery and equipment at 2,010 million, buildings 920 million, goodwill at cost at 210 million, accumulated amortization at 54 million, and accumulated depreciation at 2,120 million. Right here it asks us to prepare a partial balance sheet for Nike for these items. In the chapter during our reading, it gave us the order to list the property, plant, and equipment. So you always start with land, and land never depreciates. So we have our 250 million right here, which is right up here in the question. Next, we list our buildings, and I guess right here too in the instructions it gives us the order to list it. So we list buildings and we come up to the question. It was 920 million. Next is machinery and equipment, and right up here it gave us machinery and equipment for 2,010 million, and then other plant assets, which I believe we read that's always listed last. So right in the question it gives us the 987 million. Next we subtract the accumulated depreciation. One thing that's good to remember is that depreciation always has to do with property, plant, and equipment. Accumulated amortization only has to do with intangible assets. So that's something that kind of caught my eye that I had to go back and look at. So before we have the exam or before you move on, if it's not straight in your mind, you might want to go over the difference between depreciation and amortization, because it's definitely a separate thing. So what I did here, I added the buildings, the machinery and equipment, the other plant assets together. Then I subtracted the accumulated depreciation, and I got 1,797 million. Then I added the land and the total of the buildings, machinery, and other plant assets minus the accumulated depreciation, and I came up with the 2,047 million. Next, on the balance sheet, you list intangible assets. So where I went wrong here is this needs to actually say goodwill, and up here it says goodwill is listed at 210 million. So goodwill has an indefinite life, so you never amortize it. So it will always go up here, and that's the mistake I made there. So I wanted to make sure I showed you so that you didn't make the same mistake. So then what would go here would be the patent and the trademarks, which was 500. And then I just took the 500 million less the 54 million of accumulated amortization, and that is 446 million. And then if I add the 210 million from goodwill and the 446 million from the patents and trademarks less the accumulated amortization, then we get the 656 million. So I'll go ahead and submit my answers and see if that's where I went wrong. So that's it. So just remember on the intangible assets that goodwill never gets amortized. Sorry, can't say that. Because it has an indefinite life. So if you have any questions, post them below. I'll see if I can help out. Otherwise, good luck with the assignments this week and the upcoming exam, and have a happy Thanksgiving next week. We will see you later.